Hello, biology students. So, we've been talking a lot about the essential question, which is, what is living? We did a lab, what makes something living? We had a classroom discussion. So right now, what we're going to do is we're going to go over some notes. So if we're taking notes, we should probably be taking Cornell notes. So the title of your notes should be, I'm going to highlight it, it should be Characteristics of Life. So this should be the title. And I want you to set up your Cornell notes and write everything else, put everything else into the notes section. So first, the characteristics of life are actually what makes something living. So there are 7 things that all living things must have. So there are 7 things that I, as a human being, have in common with the bacteria, and I have that in common with the plant and with all other living things. So a characteristic, this is a really good English vocabulary word. A characteristic is a detail or trait something has. So this should be going, this is the definition, so it should be going in your notes section of your Cornell notes. Now, you guys know who this guy is. This guy is Anthony Davis. And he's a basketball player, and he's known for his unibrow. Can you see that? It's made in red. He has a unibrow, so that's something he notes for. It's a detail or trait that's very reliable. So here we have plants, and some details that plants have, or traits they have, is they're usually green. When they're green, they need water. Something they all have in common, and also they perform photosynthesis. So they use sunlight to create energy, to create food. Okay, so these are all some traits. So here we have a unibrow, and here we have something more scientific. Okay. So there are 7 of them. Okay. The first one is cells. All living things are made of 1 or more cells. So this over here is a cell. Okay, so you can see it. We see a cell. Okay, they're usually little tiny things. Okay, they look like this. Sometimes they're square, sometimes they're circular. Okay, and they're basically a cell. The definition of cell is it's the basic unit of life. So if you look at any living thing under a microscope, you should see cells if you use the microscope correctly. So if you take a plant and look at it under a microscope, you see cells. If you take my hair or like my skin, you look at it under a microscope, you see cells. Everything, anything that has DNA has cells. Okay, number 2 is reproduction. All organisms can reproduce, have babies. So there's 2 types of reproduction. There's sexual and asexual. So this is a baby. There's a woman who's pregnant. You can see her belly over here. And you can see her spine over here. And the baby is going to be born. And the baby came from as a product of sexual reproduction. Okay, this reproduction is really important because it allows your DNA to get passed on. Here's a plant. And plants actually they have buds. They have different parts of them that actually allow them to create seeds and create new plants. Okay, sometimes they create spores. Plants reproduce in very complicated ways. Sometimes you can have a cell like a bacteria, and it'll simply grow like this. Here, these are little arrows. It's growing, and then what do you think it's going to do? It's going to cut in 2. It's going to create 2 cells. So that's one way that plants reproduce, that other organisms reproduce. Okay, so number 3 is metabolism. So if someone is said to have a fast metabolism, are they fat or are they skinny? They're probably pretty skinny. They're probably someone who eats a lot of food and doesn't gain weight. That's because their body obtains and uses energy quickly. Metabolism is the obtaining and using of energy. So it has to do with all of the chemical reactions in your body. So it really has to do with the breakdown of sugar. So when you eat, you bring in sugar, and the creation of sugar or some type of nutrient into energy that you can use. So if you're really tired and you're really sleepy and you're not feeling so good, maybe you need a candy bar or some food. And that's your metabolism working. It's changing into energy that you can use. And all living things do this. So plants, they use sunlight and they create sugar and then use that sugar for energy. Bacteria will eat other things. Every living thing does it. Okay, homeostasis. So I'm going to write this over here. So it's like home, E-O. So we're going to do E-O, stay, sis. So I want you guys to be able to say this. Homeostasis is the ability to maintain a stable internal environment. So internal and stable. Stable means staying the same. Internal means inside. Okay? An environment is like how the conditions are. So for example, if you're outside, this is you, and it's 20 degrees outside because you're visiting Ms. Zenelman in Boston. She's there for vacation. Okay? What is your internal temperature? It's 96 degrees. If you are outside and you're going to Death Valley and it's 120 degrees, you're still 96 to 98 degrees. You're still 98 degrees inside. Okay? Sometimes when you get a little, when you are not maintaining homeostasis, your temperature might go up, and that's when you have a fever. That's when you're sick. So that's when something bad is happening. So if your body is not able to maintain a stable environment, then it means something's wrong, and that's why you go to the doctor. Okay. Other things that your body will regulate is sugar. So people who have diabetes have trouble regulating their sugar. They might regulate your. You might have trouble regulating your water. So that's why it's important to stay hydrated. So all those things kind of help you maintain homeostasis. Right? Heredity. So we talked about heredity is the passing of traits to parents from offspring. Okay, so you can see over here, this is me, down here. This is my grandma, and this is my sister. And you can see we all look kind of alike, right? And the reason is, it's because of heredity. So my grandma passed some traits to my mother, who passed some genes and traits onto me and my sister. So that's why we look a lot alike. Okay, that's heredity. Okay? So over here, you can see this funny little joke. We can see we have a bear, we have a clown. And this guy is a little skeptical because it realizes that these two don't really belong to her. Okay? And that's because it doesn't follow the rules of heredity. So heredity is that living things must be able to pass genes on to someone else. Okay, responsiveness. So responsiveness is really important. Okay? So responsiveness is the ability to respond or react to a stimulus. So if I scream really loudly, what would you do? You'd probably react, right? That's a stimulus. A stimulus is something that causes a reaction. Okay? So imagine an alarm. So when the fire alarm goes off, you probably react. You respond. Okay? Or a hot frying pan. Okay? If there was a fire alarm and one of you was sleeping in the back of the classroom and didn't respond, we'd be kind of concerned that you weren't hearing it, that something maybe else was wrong. So all living things, even bacteria, have some level of responsiveness. Okay, some animals respond to light. Some organisms respond to certain types of conditions, like if it's really acidic. So you can see here, this person is responding. Plants will respond to their environment. They'll often try to grow towards sunlight to respond. Okay, growth and development. So all living things can grow. This means they are growing. Because like the seed doesn't grow, but it still is living. But basically, growth which is one vocabulary word, refers to getting bigger. Development means to change as you grow. So, as you guys know, humans go through a stage called puberty, where they grow and they develop a lot. But we also develop from the time we're babies. Look at how tiny this baby's body is compared to its head. Did you guys know that babies cannot walk because their head is so hard to balance? So, over time, our bodies become more normal in relationship or in proportion to the head, okay? So we develop, we change as we grow. So we develop more normal proportions. So that is all. I want to remind you to finish your Cornell notes, pick up the main ideas on the left, and then summarize on the bottom. Okay, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.